TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
From the ECSI Sports Studios and the #1 sports investors in America, we bring you the closing bell. As the market closes, legends Jeff Dawson and Riley Magnuson bring you all the sports investing tips for tonight's matchups. If you want to learn more from the two legends at the desk, make sure you stay tuned to the closing bell.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, baby, higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the day for the closing bell with good friend and colleague, of course, Mr. Southside Riley himself. We're back. I'm going to break down. We talked backstage. We're going to do a little recap here and there. We're going to talk. He was going to talk a little about the national anthem. What happened at the Home Run Derby. I myself was doing other stuff during the national anthem. I got to be honest with you. I saw social media go astray. And, of course, the young female who said she was drunk and now checking herself into rehab. So hopefully all goes well there, of course. Me and Riley are going to talk about the Open, which starts in 2 days. Tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern, Brady Kannon, Tea Time Wages, will be here to break down his outrights, top 20s, and what else he's seeing as the head-to-head matchups there. First and foremost, a shout-out to our proud sponsor and partnership, WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It's free. Scroll to the bottom, download all the sports books that are available in your state. Take advantage of the promos, the match plays, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then from there, myself, Zach, Travis, the rest of this community and team will take good care of you. And our last proud sponsor and partnership with Viva Tequila Seltzer. Head on over to your local sports bars, establishments, order one. They are fabulous, and we are very proud to be a part of them. Shout out to CT Bets, will be coming on with us this fall, talking some college and NFL football as well. So without further ado, the co-star of this show, Mr. Riley Magnuson. What's up, champ?
What is up, my friend? Happy Tuesday afternoon. We've got a bit of a unorthodox show today with out any real action going on tonight. And obviously we've got the All-Star game. And as you mentioned, the Open Championship coming up this weekend, so I am excited for that. We just had a hell of a Scottish Open the other day, finishing up on Sunday, leading into this one here. So I am ready to lock and load. I know we've got we can talk trade rumors, we can talk plenty of random stuff to get us through what usually when we have when we don't have that many things to talk about, we usually find plenty of things to keep us busy and ramble on for an extra 20 minutes than we anticipate, but always fun when we do so.
Yeah, it's been a while, so it's good to be back. You and I will be back on Friday. We'll be talking some UFC, and of course, baseball is back on Friday, so we will be breaking down the slate there, leading into Scotty Webb, who I assume will be back on Friday for In the Batter's Box, and he's been doing an amazing job there as well. I'm going to start. You gave me a good lead in there. The Scottish Open and you get our alerts. I broke down what my eyes saw going into Saturday, which was really, late night or early morning Saturday here back east. DraftKings circa bullish on Oberg, who had been in that spot before, minus 140. What did my eyes see? Well, of course, you had Rory, who came from nowhere last year. Colin, as I said, lurking in the fescue. But I highlighted big Bobby McIntyre, the revenge tour at 30-1. He was 98% going to win last year's tournament, and Rory just came out of nowhere with a couple miraculous holes to steal it from him. And I told everyone takes a shot there at 30-1. You just don't know. He was in this position last year. He had been playing good golf. He had already won this year. What'd you see on Saturday and Sunday? And were you shocked with Bobby Mack?
Shocked, no, because I mean the guy is very deserving. I mean he's got the crowd behind him in those events at the Scottish Open. And the crazy thing about last year, if you remember, it's not like he had a bad Sunday to relinquish it either. He shot himself a 64 and on Sunday, or the fourth round of last year's Scottish Open, and obviously, like you said, Rory came in and swiped it from him. But no, I think it's a good one where, like a lot of these majors, the tournament beforehand, in certain cases, you got some where guys like to take that week off. Other cases where guys want to get themselves loaded up and ready to go, especially a similar style of play, and so. Usually you can find somebody in the top 10 or so as a good indicator that they're going to have a successful British Open Championship here. Not, now does that mean Robbie McIntyre is the runaway going into this upcoming one to win the British Open? No, and typically as we see when Rory's in some of those spots, he typically expect him to be ready to go, and a lot of people choose him to have the back-to-back success, whether it be this or past, different majors throughout the calendar, and then he doesn't show up. So I guess what I'm saying is somebody in this top chunk of guys that played really well this last week is going to have a really, really good tournament of probably 2 or 3 guys. Doesn't necessarily mean the winner is going to come out of that group for this upcoming tournament here, but usually a decent indicator of who's in form and ready to go for this, at least, setting for these tournaments are concerned.
I'm looking at DraftKings right now. Scotty Scheffler, the favorite, at plus 450. Rory at plus 850. Xander at plus 1100. Oberg at plus 1600 with Morikawa. Bryson DeChambeau plus 1800. Tommy Fleetwood 2200. John Rahm, who's just can't wait for this year to end, at 25-1. Tyrell Hatton at 28-1. And I see Victor and Brooks. Let me just scroll over here. Let me get the mouse here. Come on. Yes. Victor Hovland, Brooks Koepka at 3,000. Shane Lowry with Bobby McIntyre and Patrick Cantlay at plus 4,000. And Tony Finau at 45-1. What am I hearing a lot of on social media? I'm hearing a lot of Tony Finau. And we know what Tony Finau is. He's one of those golfers we're waiting to finally win a major. Xander Schauffele finally won a major, got the monkey off of his back. The ECSI VIPs, we are 3 for 3 in the majors. We are going for the Holy Grail, the ECSI Grand Slam. 156 golfers, okay? So even if you ran to the window and played 10%, at 15 golfers, you still got 90% of the field here to worry about. So we will pick and choose wisely. We will keep our eyes on the prize, obviously. It's kind of tough today on Tuesday. We'll have the show on Wednesday. I'll get the alert out tomorrow, late afternoon, early evening. Looking at the DraftKings numbers, Scotty Scheffler, minus 175 to finish in the top 10. He's plus 120 to finish top 5. Has not played in a handful of weeks like Rory last week. It was the first time Rory had played since the U.S. Open. Call me crazy here, Riley. I'm not a minus 175 guy, but when you're giving me plus 450 to beat 155 golfers versus top 10 and minus 175, my eyes automatically flock to Scheffler top 10. It's an auto play versus beating 155 golfers and to hold up the Claret Jug at plus 450.
No, I mean, you're not crazy. I mean, you look through his finishes, and it's really the U.S. Open where he didn't really show up for, at least from what we expect here. I mean, last time we saw him, he was the winner of. It's not like he's coming off of a bad performance either. He's taken some time off, but his last time we saw him, he won the Travelers Championship. So had the little blip where he wasn't quite in form at the U.S. Open, and other than that, he's been obviously nails here. So. And obviously in the past, this is one where he's performed fine at. I mean, I think last year he was just outside, obviously different golf course, but just outside the top 20. So it's not like this is a setting that he's been unequipped for. He hasn't excelled at this one at the British Open as compared to some of these other ones, but I would have to imagine that would potentially motivate him even more. So I think he's going to be kind of refocused and sharp here. And I mean, if he slips up a little bit here, then I think maybe we can look at the rest of the season and saying, maybe he's not going to be, the dominant force that we've seen to this point so far. But I do think he's going to show up, and you're hard pressed to imagine him finishing outside of the top 10. I mean, he's not going to miss the cut. I'm just using this as most guys are make or miss the cut, and you get some plus odds on the miss cut. You get some plus odds on the top 10. If you really feel that strongly that he's not going to finish in the top 10, then go ahead and find a way to take a swing there. But you're playing with dynamite when you're betting against Scottie Scheffler, let alone betting on him here.
And I am the president of the Rory McIlroy fan club. Plus 850, I think, is fair numbers. A lot of people thought he had a good opportunity to defend. He was lurking. I mean, he's the only guy on the planet that can be 7 shots off and be the second favorite. And that's just how powerful he is. I always say he has a different gear. He has something in the bag that no one else on the tour has. We had Xander winning his first major this year. I'm going to go to Oberg here for a second. He shocked the world second at the Masters behind Scottie Scheffler. Since then, he has, quote unquote, had a knee problem, which he says is not a problem. I have seen him on the lead going to Sunday now a couple times, and he's so young. It's like seasoning. It's just like, you need to get this out of your repertoire. I'm the leader. I got to close now. He hasn't been able to do that and be the 4th favorite here, tied with Colin at 16-1. He's one of these guys that you don't play, and then you're just like, how the bleep did I leave him off my card? What's your thoughts with Oberg here this week?
No, I mean, I don't see any reason to believe he, wouldn't be back in that mix again. We always talk about, you and I talk about guys who are in form, and there's, as far as the list of guys who are in form right now, he's as much as on that list outside of someone named, Scottie Scheffler or maybe Morikawa, guys that have been in the mix consistently this season. I mean, he's got the one ugly spot was the miscut at the PGA Championship, just looking at his, lineup on the season this year. From March, halfway through March on, aside from that one, he's been, top 10s and top 15s most of the way here. So I think this is going to be one where he's probably going to have, as far, being not too far, obviously, as compared to the American golfers, he's going to have a decent fan base, I would assume, there, from the Swedish contingency there. So I think he'll be well-backed and have some positive forces there. So that is one guy for sure that I would, say is a good bet for a top 10, if not better. The one guy that I was going to throw out there that we have not talked about much this year that has started to turn the wheels back in the positive direction, Wyndham Clark, 2 top 10s last 2 times out, tied for 10th last week at the Scottish Open. Before that, top 10 at the Travelers Championship. Has not been good at all in any of the majors this year, but obviously a guy who broke onto the scene last year. If he's starting to get back into form, that is a guy that you can jump on some value with the odds that have shifted away from. He's still, I think, top 10, top 5, maybe even as far as the world golf rankings, which obviously right now is not as applicable as it used to be. But the point is, for a guy that used to be, at top 10 as far as odds are concerned, he's 60-1, I think, right now on DraftKings. So that is one guy that, as far as a value play for, if you're betting on him being back into form, then you can take advantage of some of his odds right now.
No, I see that he's at 6,000 with Sahith Theegala and Matt Fitzpatrick and Louis Oostin, who I have seen by some of the sharps. I and Louis at 6,000. Louis, Jordan Spieth, Corey Connors, Cameron Young. So of that group, I love where your eyes are there with Clark. Are you buying or selling the Louis talk this week?
It's been a while since until this week that I've really paid much attention to Louis. So every time it feels like every time we're talking about Louis, it's not the time to buy, and then it's the times where nobody mentions his name for the last month, where he pops up and is threatening at the top of the leaderboard there. So I'm not saying no, but it's been a while since we've talked about him. So I've been out of the Louis loop other than up until this week. So I haven't been paying attention too much. So I'll buy this the sizzle on Louis this week.
And I'm seeing and hearing winds could be a factor later on in the weekend, 19 mile an hour plus gusts. I'm looking at the board here. Again, there no alert coming out till tomorrow afternoon. God, I'm going to say it this way. There's a guy here at 22-1 that's sticking out like a sore thumb, and he's been playing a lot better. Another guy searching for a major. Tommy Fleetwood. Thoughts on Tommy?
Yeah, that was one guy. I mean, I feel like he always gets mentioned around this time with this major because obviously he's going to have a huge fan base there. But to your point, he is playing very well. He hasn't missed a cut since March. He's been outside of a top 49 or tied for 49th. I'm sorry, he's been right around the top 20, if not top 10. So he is playing really, really well right now, and that is as far as a statement is concerned, that one. The odds are definitely something that pops out for where he's playing at and what we've, he kind of is in this conversation often in these British Opens and then doesn't quite live up to the hype. So from that, that kind of scares me away just a tiny bit, but almost a statement of how respectful those odds are almost a bigger statement than how my concerns are. It overcomes my concerns, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And today, here's how I'm reading the board. Obviously, subject to change overnight. I'll check the board. I will check it again in the afternoon. We will do our Tea Time Wager show at 5 o'clock tomorrow with Brady. I will assess the odds board and send out the first alert here. I will say this. Looking at the board, the number that stands out, I'll just say this. A little too much meat on the bone, believe it or not. With Scheffler, he was 5-1. He's bet down to 450. Most likely, the odds will not get higher unless he really blows up early on the first round. There, probably be staying away from there. I respect the Rory number. I mean, Xander at 11-1. Okay, I just think Oberg. I think he's going to be in the mix. I just think it's a year of hanging around these majors and won't be able to close one out. Where I think I'm going to start, and the number sticks out pretty good here, Colin Morikawa at plus 1,600.
Yeah, and I mean a guy that we've talked about as far as being in the he's pretty much in form, I would say. He just hasn't had that extra gear to this point. But like you said, at some point, if you're putting yourself in contention that often, at some point you're going to find that extra gear, or you're going to find the right situation where somebody else isn't snatching it away from you. So I am with you 100% on Colin Morikawa. At some point, he's got to step up because we've obviously seen him do it before. It's not one of these guys where it's like, oh, can he win the big one? Like, no, he's got a couple under his belt. It's been a few years for sure here, but at the end of the day, when a guy like that who has some under his belt and is in the mix that often, you got to imagine he's going to step up at some point. So I'm with you 100% on Colin Morikawa as well.
At the Masters, it was kind of comical because he was in bad form, and the same then him and Oberg come out of nowhere, and there they are right there on the leaderboard. And then he was knocking on the door, just had nothing with the flat stick there. So that number jumps out. Victor, too much is going on right now with Victor. Again, I look at the Open. You got to be a good iron player. A lot of these guys keep the ball low and get the good run here. Is it going to be a lot of wind there? Stay out of the bunkers. There's so much maneuver in them. I was going to use the word craftsmanship, probably the wrong word there. But one of the years Tiger won the Open, he never hit a driver. He just stayed out of the bunkers and just hit it low and long. And so, again, my eyes are really propelled to Morikawa at 16-1. Tommy Fleetwood at 22-1. Listen, you're not going to ever get Rahm at 25-1. God bless you. If he pops, he pops. But again, he just wants to get on to 2025. I'll end here because this number looks a little out of place to me. And Tyrell Hatton at 28-1. It looks out of place to me. Thoughts on Hatton?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that because that was one that I kind of stood out to me as far as a respect factor, especially compared to a lot of these other guys and the other names, guys that are playing, well or not very well. But I mean, as far as for people who aren't paying attention to the Live Tour, I'm not watching it on a weekly basis by any means. But the last few tournaments, I mean, he's got I think he just finished third this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this past weekend, and before that finished first at the one event before that in June. So a guy who, as far as these live golfers is concerned, as playing as well as anybody on that side of things, which, if you translate that to the PGA event, he's probably winning at least one of the PGA events in the last few months here, and you'd probably be talking about him as a top 10, top 15 golfer, based on the past setup of the world rankings here. So I'm with you 100%. That one stood out to me as well. The other one that based on, some of his past odds over the last few majors and a guy who's not playing that well but always pops up and raises his level of play at the majors is Koepka, 30-1, who we've obviously seen his odds be a lot more respectful than that, in the 20-1, 15-1 range in some of these majors. But for a guy who hasn't been playing that great, that one kind of jumped out to me as well, but could be a little bit of the sizzle with some fans. Just I think at this point he's always going to get some action on whatever his number is, just based off his previous history at majors.
Yeah, and he was always the autoplay on the majors. You just played Brooks. You just didn't matter because you were going to be a part of that leaderboard, hanging around, if not winning. Again, like Rahm, who's 25-1, Brooks is at plus 3,000. It's almost one of these, hey, don't rush to the window. We got a window all set up here for all the Brooks play, almost like enticing some action there. And lastly, we had success. He won a major, of course, and that's Bryson DeChambeau. He's kind of won America back. He is just the mad scientist out there. I saw it as low as 16-1, now 18-1, has struggled at the British Open here. Is that price a little too high, meaning they're enticing us, or at 18-1, are you buying Bryson DeChambeau?
I think it's a little enticement, and I want to preface this by saying I'm not. I've shifted my thoughts on Bryson as far as fandom and likability is concerned. His only win on the entire season, Live or PGA, is at that U.S. Open. I mean, the narrative around him shifted so far to that of being the undisputed number 2 golfer in the world for a lot of people, and he could very well be that. He could, he's as talented enough and in a lot of ways to be that good. But again, he has the one single victory on the entire season. It's not like he's stacking up victories on the Live Tour and he comes over and he kicks everyone's butt when he comes over to the majors. He obviously had a fantastic finish. It was at the PGA Championship number 2, and top 10 of the major in the Masters. So I'm not trying to downplay anything he's done, but it's not like he's dominating in all senses of it. He's been good. I'm not trying to say he hasn't been good. But I do think it is a little bit overhyped, and I think a lot of after the U.S. Open, the train of hype. Does that mean he can't win? Absolutely not. He's absolutely as much of a contender as anyone other than Scotty Scheffler and maybe Rory. But my point is, I think the hype of it got a little bit out of hand and drove that number a little bit, in my opinion.
100%, and I agree with you. I guess the last couple of days he's out there, and some of the people on the course are just shaking their head. I think he had back-to-back 400-yard drives, which I don't know what it was, carry versus roll, but again, we know he can drive it with the best of them. So I agree with you there. I'm going to switch gears. Did you catch UFC Denver on Saturday?
I believe I might have caught one of the prelim ones, but for the most part, no. I had some other things going on Saturday, so I didn't see the UFC main events at least on Saturday night.
I caught two things that stuck out to me, and I love when you always say a bad man. We were talking a few weeks ago, UFC 303 with Pereira and Mr. Silva, who was on that card and won, I think, in a first or second round knockout. 14 days notice, comes in and fights a local hero there in Denver. And I've never seen the cut. It was like Hollywood. It was like Rocky and Drago. If you haven't seen it, go take a look at it. And he literally looked at the ref in the second round. It's like, guys, I mean, this thing was shredded wheat, and they stopped the fight there. So as you would like to say, Silver is a bad man there. Yeah. And on the main event, Doug Rose and Tracy fought. Doug, big first round. I thought Tracy won the second round, and then Doug won the third and fourth round. But in the fifth round, last round there, I thought Tracy had a great round. Easily a Rose unanimous victory there. But hats off to Tracy. I thought, she couldn't make weight, cuts her hair, and makes weight at 126. And another one that was called upon to fight as Rose's opponent couldn't make it. So, I was impressed. My eyes were on it. We'll have Lou on Thursday at 3:00 to talk about this week's card. Did you see anything in this week's card at the Apex that might have caught your eye?
This upcoming week, still looking at it, as far as Rose is concerned, I think she's feeling disrespected. I don't think the rankings have shifted after this past fight, but I mean, she takes the belt from Zhang Weili and then defends it once and then loses the fight after that, and then drops all the way down to wins her most recent fight before this one, and is down all the way at 6 in her ranking class, which again, very, very solid and stacked. I would say a stacked division for the most part there, but still for someone who defended the belts and only a couple losses and all the way down to 6, I think is going to be on the way back to contending for the belt again in the future there. But as far as this upcoming one is concerned, 2 weeks away, for a week and a half away from a big pay-per-view event. So this one definitely has some pop to it and has some fun with it. But for the most part, it's one that there's the main event, Lemos and I'm sorry, I always botch her pronunciation of her name, Jandiroba. I'm sure I'm botching that one. Is going to be a really good fight. Amanda Lemos is honestly the name that I'm sure a lot of people have maybe seen more. She's been in some bigger fights here in the UFC. So I do think it is a decent statement. Jandiroba, after watching her, she is a bad woman. To use that same nomenclature there, my friend. But she's gonna have, this is kind of dwindling down for these two. They're both in their later 30s. So this one is the winner of this one's going to have a shot to rise up. The loser of this one's not done, but the path to flying back up the rankings is going to be tough. So that is a really big one. So I'll lean towards the favorite in that one for right now, Jandiroba, just off of a little bit of a respect there. But Brad Tavares as an underdog on the co-main event is a really interesting one. Jung Young Park. I mean, a couple of these South Koreans that are fighting are some bad dudes as well. So there's a lot of guys in this one that I think this is a card where there's some really, really good talented fighters that maybe just aren't the marketable type that you haven't really seen in some of these pay-per-views. But if you want some exciting fights, these definitely are probably going to deliver, because a lot of whether it be pick'ems or there's really no big favorites. I think in the prelims and the main event, I think there's one -210 favorite. And then after that, a -180, and for the most part, it's -110s to -150s for the most part there.
When we started our shows back in January, February after the Super Bowl, we were talking spring training, and it was a bleak forecast for both my Red Sox and your White Sox. And we're at the All-Star break tonight. All-Star game Paul Skeens, if you haven't seen him, make sure you turn on. He will pitch 1 inning against Corbin Burns, which kind of surprised me. I thought they'd give it to Tyreek Skubal from Detroit. Cy Skubal, who we gave out as the American League Cy Young winner pre-flop here. We'll see what happens in the back half there. Your White Sox playing to what everyone thought. Not being a wise guy, but, bad news bears thank God for the Colorado Rockies and a few other teams there. But my point is the 2 headliners in the trade deadline, which is coming up in a couple weeks. Tyreek Skubal, his name is out there for the Orioles and the Dodgers. And Garrett Crochet, your young lefty who you tried to extend, couldn't come to terms, and now the White Sox has made it clear that Crochet is available for a king's ransom, and you added Luis Roberts. So since we're at the trade deadline in a couple of weeks and we're at the All-Star break, what are you hearing? What are you seeing from your beloved White Sox?
It does seem like the rumors are swirling a lot hotter for Garrett Crochet than they are Luis Robert at this point. Luis Robert, I don't think they're going to get the type of package that it would take for them to be enticed by a trade for Luis Robert. His numbers haven't been fantastic this year. I think in a lot of cases it just looks like, knowing where they are in the standings, he's just swinging for the fences just about every single pitch as opposed to trying to do a little bit of a full phase attack there. But I'd be on the side of assuming, maybe not assuming, but leaning towards them not doing anything with Luis Robert, keeping him in the offense, building around him as a close to a 5-tool player, if not a full 5-tool player there, who can play some defense when he's got his head on. He's not a hothead by any means, but when he's motivated correctly, it doesn't seem he's fully motivated this year. I have all the faith in the world that he's going to have a better future than what he's having here, and I think he's going to stick around. Because again, they would have to get a king's ransom for him to feel comfortable parting ways, and I just don't think that's out there for him. Whereas Garrett Crochet, it does seem like they could get, for someone who's as young as Crochet, for someone who's pitching as well as Crochet is right now, and all signs point to him, continuing that for the foreseeable future in his career in the MLB here. I do think they could get a very, very nice package for Crochet. And it's still, and on top of that, it'd be one thing where it's like, okay, well, you got a young pitcher, why not keep him around? And, the farm system is starting to improve this last year or so, but they still need a lot more depth and some high ticket names as far as prospects are concerned. So if they can get a couple, guys that in a year or two are going to be up in the big league club, whether it be a pitcher or position player, they're going to go ahead and do that. So I am leaning towards keeping Robert and finding a big suitor for Crochet to potentially aid in somebody's postseason run down the stretch here.
And I'm listening to the locals the last couple of days, and they talk about Crochet and the fact, I think they said 800,000, and you got him locked up for a handful of years afterward. I think of the Nationals every time when I think of this situation, because the Nationals made it clear they were moving Max Scherzer. And next thing you know, the Dodgers end up with Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. So I don't know the situation. I do know that the White Sox drafted Hagen Smith from Arkansas, a young lefty, a strikeout artist as well, who I've heard is going to take a couple of years of seasoning. He's not Paul Skeens. He's not a couple of these others that will only need 30 innings of AAA ball to get up there. Right. It almost looked like the heir apparent to Crochet. It would be amazing if you could keep Crochet, build around him, and then call a Hagen Smith up in a year or two, and that could be your dynamic duo, the 1-2 punch there. Are you in a situation or hearing where I heard initially 4 or 5 prospects for Crochet, and now all of a sudden Robert is available as well? Could it come down to a Dodger saying, hey, we'll give you 5 prospects, but we want both of them?
It wouldn't shock me, and me saying I'm leaning towards them keeping is not, anything. It just sounded like the stove isn't as hot, and the offers aren't quite as hot for Robert as they are Crochet. So it would not shock me at all, especially for a farm system that's got plenty of depth and plenty of options to give up. So it wouldn't shock me. I could see that happening. I just think they. I think they keep Robert to keep him in that offense because they need. The position player depth. A couple of their prospects they typically they do a better job of developing pitchers, and they've got a couple names that they like in their pitcher pool in the prospects. But I mean, their highest, biggest name in minors, Colson Montgomery, second baseman, is not performing well in the minors right now. So I don't think unless you're giving them, a few position players that they're in love with, I think they keep Robert. But again, I could be eating my words, and it wouldn't shock me if someone's willing to pay and wants him, then they'll give it up.
Is it still a lock that Kopech will be gone?
I think it's got to be, and I think the other guy that I've been hearing as well, because of the kind of unfound success that he's had, is Fetty, who has been previously the last 5-6 years pretty penciled in as a 5 ERA guy and a guy that's gonna eat some innings for you, but is gonna give up plenty of runs. For a guy that's 31 years old and you probably don't factor him into the future of whatever you're rebuilding, if you can get just about anything for him, I think you got to go ahead and do something for Fetty as well. So I'm predicting, Fetty and Kopech going somewhere, because like you said, Kopech's numbers this year obviously aren't fantastic, but it's a guy who still 28. I mean, a guy that you can mold a little bit if you get into the right situation. So I do think so, him and Fetty.
And I think Kopech is the perfect arm for, as you know, in the playoffs and, of course, the World Series. The more that you play, the further along you get. It's the starters that get you 4. Can you get me to the 5th? And you need the bridges. So a team like the Phillies that are looking to add, that's how they've been so successful. Their starters, the Nolas, the Wheelers of the world, get them to that 4 or 5 spot. And then it's the bridges. And then here comes the closer or the 8th inning setup specialist to the 9th inning. So I think, you kind of piqued my interest because don't forget, Kopech came from the Red Sox. We are looking for another arm. It would probably be a Red Sox typical knocking on your door saying, hey, we'll take Kopech off your hands and throw in Fetty as well, and you can get an extra prospect.
Right, and the other, kind of just adding a little cherry on top is that Kopech's been kind of the de facto setup man / closer for the White Sox in the 8th and 9th innings of a lot of these games and some high, call it high pressure for the worst team in baseball, but you know what I mean, where it's tie games or one-run games. Not something he's typically used to. I mean, obviously previously a starter, but, early in his career with the White Sox coming out of the bullpen a little bit. So, like you said, if you get him, if you're talking put him in the 5th, 6th, 7th inning as opposed to the 8th and 9th inning or anything along those lines, I think that is another chance of, taking a little pressure off of him as well. And like you said, being a bridge as opposed to being the guy at the back end of a bullpen, when you obviously don't have a ton of support behind you right now.
Don't want to initially wheel him out in the bottom of the 9th, bases loaded, facing Shohei Ohtani, right?
Yeah, something like that.
We will be back on Friday around 5 o'clock, give or take. Baseball is back. We'll talk some UFC again with Riley here. Again, tomorrow is Wednesday. I will be on Wager Talk with Andrew McGinnis at 12, back at 5 with Brady Kannon for Tea Time Wagers. Tonight, if you are bored, 8:14 Sports Grid with Mr. Scott Wenzel and Dave Sharapan. We're going to talk a little MLB All-Star Game. I'm going to give out a couple futures that we have, a couple teams to make the playoffs, a couple division winners, and a team not to make the playoffs where you can get plus money on. So closing thoughts, sir.
Closing thoughts, I think we got to get from both of us an All-Star Game MVP pick and maybe a homer pick here before we get on out of here. We got to get a little fun here. I'll go for my All-Star Game MVP. I'll go a little redemption from last night. I'll go the kid Bobby Witt Jr., maybe a couple RBIs for Bobby Witt Jr. It does seem like, the total at 7, obviously, we've had some All-Star games in the past where the total's been a little higher and it was a little fool's gold. So probably going to be that typical. A lot of these games are in the 3-2, 4-2, 4-3 range, so probably right in there. But I'll go Bobby Witt Jr. for a All-Star Game MVP, which, it would probably help if he was also the one hitting a homer. But I will go for a homer. I'll go Yordan Alvarez at 6:30.
Well, I'm going to save all my theatrics here. We're going to go early, so we're going to go big and go home. Okay, I'm going to go Paul Skeens. I'm going to say I'm not an immaculate inning, but I'm going to say he gets 3 strikeouts. Now, of course, 1999 and Pedro Martinez, of course, 4 up, 4 down. And we had Teddy Williams, Teddy Ballgame in the golf cart, the most electric night in the history, or one of the most electric nights at Fenway Park. So I'm going to shock the world and go MVP Paul Skeens. And I'm going to go even more chalkier than ever. And I'm going to go with my National League home run prop, Mr. Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, that one's probably a decent pick. The other interesting thing is a couple of these guys have seen Burns before if they get up in that first inning there. So, Burns has been, I don't want to use your term leaking oil because he's obviously been very good, but there's been a couple of recent starts where he's given up a lot of hits. So that, if we're leaving it over the plate a little too much here against these All-Stars, then it could get ugly for Burns. I don't know. So I'll go with faith in the AL All-Stars on as I usually try to do. But I like the picks, and Ohtani obviously never a bad call for hitting a bomb.
Well, again, as you said, they have seen Corbin Burns, obviously, and the fact of the matter is my plug is you should have started Tariq Skubal, not Corbin Burns.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping he is leaking oil in the first, and get up, get a crooked number in the first, and then have Skeens come in and dominate the first inning, tip his hat, and say we're on to Cincinnati. How's that?
Yeah, that works for me. So no, that'll be it for my closing thoughts, my friend. A little All-Star game fun.
Come join us tomorrow again, 12 o'clock. I will be on Wager Talk with Andrew McGinnis. Come have fun with us at 8:14 tonight. If you got YouTube, throw on Sports Grid or whatever the other networks they are on. 8:14. I think I got the 8:14 to 8:30, something like that, with Scott Wenzel and Dave Sharapan. And, of course, 5 o'clock, make sure you tune in. Turn the notifications on. Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer. Tea Time Wagers. We'll be talking the Open. Will Scotty do it? Who knows? Tune in there. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Riley Magnuson at Riley_Magnuson, the one. Wish everyone a blessed day. Have some fun. Enjoy the All-Star game. And we will see you soon.